Hi, what's up? It's a video that I think I will redo in about a year because it is a video where I answer all of the questions I had before knowing different languages and before using different languages. So, just for context here, throughout the last 2 years, I learned Spanish. I already knew English. I'm a native French speaker. And recently, I learned Ukrainian, and I'm currently learning Portuguese. I now have some new insights and I have some answers to some of those questions. Okay, without further ado, let's dive in. First question would be, does it feel the same way to speak different languages that I learn? That's kind of an easy question to answer. No, not at all. It's not the same thing because I think what feels different, what is the most noticeable, is my voice and the way I move my body. My body language kind of changes as I speak different languages. So when I speak Ukrainian, I tend to be less expressive with my hands, and I tend to be more verbal. And even what I say is different. I'm in a different mind space. When I speak Spanish, I use my hands a lot. Same with French. English is kind of in the middle, and my voice is different throughout the different languages I speak. You can check the videos where I speak Spanish or French or Ukrainian on my channel, and you'll see the difference. So no, it doesn't feel the same. Can I jump from one language to another right away and easily? Before I used languages, different languages, foreign languages, I used to think that I could, like, this question implies that I thought that I could really jump from one language to another very easily and just like transition my mind and just switch mind spaces. Well, it turns out that it's really not easy, and I do need an adaptation phase in a conversation. I have some friends that speak several languages like me, and when we try to switch to another language, if it's English or French, it's alright because, well, those are kind of like my native languages. But if it's Spanish, Ukrainian, or Portuguese, it requires a lot of focus, a lot of concentration. I need to before saying anything, I need to check that it is in that language, because what can happen is that I can end up, if I switch from Ukrainian to Portuguese, for example, I will use some Ukrainian in Portuguese. So I will use like the word like yes or why or some simple things that you don't really think about when you just start talking. And it's kind of painful, to be honest, because it's like your intuition just wants you to say those things and use those structures, and like you have to fight it back. But once you fought that back, it gets easier, and once you're in that flow, it's okay. But switching from one to another, really hard. Let me know if you've encountered those kind of situations in the comment, if you speak different languages. In what language do I think? That's a very good question. I think that I mostly think in English and French when I think aloud, and when I use, let's say, Ukrainian. If I use Ukrainian every day for a week, yeah, I will catch myself thinking a little bit in Ukrainian, but because I don't know the language as well as French or English, it's kind of limited. So I can catch myself thinking out loud in Ukrainian, but it's very rare. I'd say, or Spanish for that matter, but I'd say mostly in English and in French. And the transition between thinking in English and in French is very natural. I don't really notice that. And I think I started thinking in English like a few years ago when I really started using English every day. What accent do I have when I learn a new language? Okay, I have a very clear answer for that, and it's not going to be very surprising, I think, for you. when I start speaking Portuguese, which is a language I don't really know yet, I kind of struggle speaking that language because I haven't had much practice. People kind of get I'm French. They understand. So I'd say my accent would be French. When I started learning Ukrainian, I'm not sure. I might have had some little bit of an English accent, but it's such a different. It's so the pronunciation is so different. I think sometimes my accent can be like a mix of English and French. I don't know. I'd have to when I'll learn further languages. I think if I learn a Germanic language, I might have an English accent. If I learn Romance language, I might have a French accent. I don't know, but one thing is sure: I won't ever have a Ukrainian or a Spanish or a Portuguese accent in another language because I don't. Those languages are not as I'm not as fluent in them as in English or in French. Do I notice that I learn faster with every new language? Or does my mind saturate with all the words I learn? Do I sense some kind of a limited capacity in my brain in terms of words, grammar, structure, and everything? No, not at all. It's the contrary, really. I Every new language I learn, I feel like it's easier and I can just go through the process just with less stress. I have more confidence, and I think my cognitive abilities are improving, and that's also because I'm aging, so I'm gaining wisdom. My brain is further developing. So no, it gets easier and faster every time, and it kind of feels like there's this switch I can turn on right now. Like it's very intuitive. It's very subconscious too. I can like turn on the switch and get in a sort of an acquisition mode. Of course, it doesn't reliably work, but it kind of feels like this. I can just like turn on the switch and instantly, like, I don't know, it just flows better. I can acquire better and understand. I get, let's say that I comprehend and understand faster. Yeah, I get to a better level of both expression comprehension faster at every language I learn. Though I will have to test this by learning languages that are completely unrelated to the languages I know. I have some project with that in the future, so subscribe and keep following me. Okay. Can I recognize the native speakers of the languages I speak? Well, that is kind of embarrassing. The short answer is no. There are a lot of occurrences where I started speaking English to someone and I would not be able to. I sense that they're not a native speaker, and I would not be able to tell what their native language is, so I have to ask them. I know of people that have this kind of intuition and they can just like say, oh, this guy is South American, that person is Slavic. I have I don't know. I kind of have an intuition, but I never fully trust it. And I don't have this ability to just like switch to the person's native language if I know it. I kind of need the reassurance to ask first. So no, I'm not very good with that. Hopefully it will improve with time. Can I understand and communicate with the speakers of related languages? Okay, that's a big one. I used to think that I would be like learning Ukrainian would bring me like the knowledge and the capacity to speak with Bulgarian people or Polish people and kind of be understood and understand them. Well, I did the test on the channel to see whether or not I could understand other languages, other Slavic languages. Turns out it was like not a complete fail, but 98% of everything I didn't get, and it was very hard for me, especially because I didn't get the not social clues, but like the body language and the context. It was purely based on hearing, and I didn't get anything. So I guess no, Maybe Italian. I do understand Italian, but I have never had a conversation where I use, let's say, French or Spanish to speak with an Italian person, and that goes well. I never had that experience. Might need to try in the future. Who knows? Is it always satisfying to speak the languages I have already learned? And can I just pretend I'm a native and get away with it? Okay, so this is going to be a pretty contrasted answer. No, it's not always very satisfying to use the languages that I've learned. They're not always here, ready for me to use, and it's not just like I just metaphor plug and play. It takes some setup time. I can't really explain. I'm just gonna give an example here. For instance, this morning I had a friend call me from Ukraine, and we started speaking Ukrainian right after I woke up, and that was hard. Even speaking French or English is not an easy task. As I wake up, I need some time to like get my brain going, but that was really hard. It hit me hard. So I guess like in those situations where I'm not expecting to speak the language, and all those situations where there's like a speed component, it's not very pleasant to use my language, especially if I know that I don't know the vocabulary around something. For example, I was cooking with some friends in Ukrainian, some Ukrainian friends, and we're speaking Ukrainian, and I don't have a very extended vocabulary when it comes to cooking and food and everything, so that was like pretty hard. But like I said, through difficulty we learn, and I'm grateful of these experiences. I feel great after, but during it's not always pleasant. With Spanish too, I don't speak Spanish often, which is kind of ironic because it's the language I speak that has the most native speakers. But I don't speak Spanish often, and sometimes when I have to switch back to Spanish and I'm in the street, someone needs to speak in Spanish with me or whatever, it takes effort, and when I don't really succeed, it's not very pleasant right away, but after, always a breeze. It's always nice. Oh, interesting question here. Is my French getting worse as I know more languages? So is my native language depreciating? Is my level in my native language depreciating as I learn more languages? And I can confidently say that no, it does not happen. Of course, sometimes I do want to use the languages that I've been practicing a lot. So if I speak Ukrainian for like a week, I really want to use my Ukrainian. So a word or two might slip, but it might slip out. But no, speaking French or English is always easy for me. Well, if I have to stay completely honest, sometimes speaking English can get a bit tricky. In some situations, I kind of lose my accent. It's not always constant, but I mean, like, that's part of the game. I'm not native. So no, my French is not getting worse. I would say that it's the opposite. I gain more knowledge of French. I get more knowledgeable of how it works and how languages works in general. So I understand my own language better. Sometimes there are some roots that some roots that I discover in Portuguese or in Spanish that help me discover and understand new French words. Of course, no one knows every word of French or every word of any language for that instance. So yeah, no, my French is not getting worse. There's this thing that I am fighting against personally, is when I speak French and sometimes I have the perfect English word for that, or the perfect English sentence that would make perfect sense. I fight back the urge to use it because I don't want to mix languages together. French is French, English is English. There's that. But then it takes 5 seconds and I find the right word in French and all goes well. Am I forgetting the languages I know that I don't use? This is gonna be pretty tricky question. My answer is gonna be no. The language I would be the most prone to forget would be Spanish because I've had like quite a lot of practice with Spanish, but I don't use it that much, and I still speak Spanish. Every time I encounter someone, I still remember the words. I don't remember forgetting anything. Todavía puedo hablar español. Se comprende cuando hablo y mi acento se queda el mismo, no sé. Español todavía está bien para mí. And okay, recently what has been hard is to switch from Spanish to Portuguese. I had the opportunity to do this with some friends, and yeah, that was hard because a lot of the words are the same in Spanish and Portuguese. Sometimes they're not. They don't mean exactly the same thing, so it can get tricky. But like I said before in the video, after like 2 or 3 minutes, I'm setting myself in one language. I'm setting my mind for one language, and all goes well. Okay, I'm actually looking forward to seeing this video in a year, and maybe I'll have some more questions I can answer, and maybe I'll have changed my mind about things. Maybe I will have forgotten Spanish, who knows. So leave a thumbs up if you like the video. I don't ask you often, but it will mean the world if you could subscribe to the channel. I am really devoting myself to it. It's been a great journey so far, so tag along if you like language learning, if you like languages and cultures in general. And yeah, that's been it. Thank you very much for watching. À bientôt.